Hey, it's Joey for Digital DJ Tips, and in this video we're going to take a look at the DDJ-XP1 from Pioneer DJ. It's a grid controller that's got 32 backlit pads on board, a pair of touch strips that take full advantage of the new slide effects feature found in the latest version of Rekordbox DJ, and it's also got function buttons for accessing the keyboard and key shift modes, which are also found in the latest version of Rekordbox DJ. So in this video, we're going to do three things. First up, I'm going to give you a features rundown of the DDJ-XP1, and then I'm going to give you my thoughts on it. And finally, I'm going to show you a little routine that I put together especially for you guys. Let's get to it. The DDJ-XP1 is a grid pad controller that's got 32 backlit pads on board, 16 for each of the two decks. Each deck has 4 pad mode buttons on top of the pads to select among 8 modes: Hot Cue, Pad Effects 1 and 2, Beat Jump, Sampler, Keyboard, Beat Loop, and Key Shift. It's got Browse, Loop, Deck Load buttons, Sampler Bank Select buttons, Deck Select buttons, and other controls at the top of the unit. Flanking the DDJ-XP1 are the new slide effects sections, which consist of 3 slide effects selector buttons and a touch strip. You can choose up to 3 slide effects from among the 17 found in Rekordbox DJ 5.0, and you can turn them on or off using the 3 slide effects buttons. The touch strip then lets you modulate the effect, creating echo trails, filtered buildups, and other cool effects. Around the back, the DDJ-XP1 only has a USB jack and a Kensington lock. This is USB bus powered, so no need to plug in a power adapter. The DDJ-XP1 is the only controller at this time that enables the slide effects in Rekordbox DJ, as well as the pad editor. The pad editor lets you rearrange the pad mode function buttons and also lets you assign specific commands to each pad, which you can save as user-defined pad modes. This lets you create a customized pad surface layout that's convenient and intuitive for you to use during your routines. Alright, so what are my thoughts on the DDJ-XP1? Well, first up, let's talk about the pads, arguably the biggest draw of this controller. The pads are chunky and stiff, and that's a good thing because it feels like the pads are meant to withstand a ton of abuse, which is basically what happens when you're banging out a pad routine. But even if you're just casually triggering hotkeys or maybe using the pad effects, which are a feature found in Rekordbox DJ, the pads feel great and they don't feel like they're flimsy. They're also quite responsive and sensitive. In terms of size, they're not as big as the ones that you'd find on a DDJ-RX or DDJ-RZ, for example, but they're certainly a lot bigger than the tiny performance pads that you'd find on the DJ-MS9 mixer. So in terms of size, this is the middle ground out of all the gear that Pioneer DJ has put out recently. And arguably, I would say that these are some of the best feeling that the company has put out in recent years. Now, the second thing that I want to talk about are the slide effects. Now, slide effects are a new feature found in Rekordbox DJ 5.0, but they can only be activated when you plug in a DDJ-XP1 controller to your laptop. So in that sense, the effects themselves are exclusive to this controller. So what happens is when you plug this into your laptop, you're able to choose from among 17 slide effects, and you can assign them to any of the 3 buttons over here. You can turn them on or off, and then you use the touch strip with your finger in order to modulate the effects. Now, the effects themselves are quite useful. They're good for creating buildups in songs that don't even have them. Let's say you're DJing music from like the 90s or the 80s or even the early 2000s, and they don't have any EDM style buildups, and you'd want to add them to those songs while you're DJing. Well, you can use the slide effects feature, and they're really easy to use and they sound great. An easy way to create that buildup or that sense of anticipation in a song that doesn't have one. Now, another cool thing about the DDJ-XP1 is it lets you take full advantage of the new 16 hot cue limit found in Rekordbox 5. That means you can place up to 16 hot cues in a track and you can trigger them using the pads. But that's not all. You can also launch the keyboard mode here on the DDJ-XP1, and now you can pitch up or pitch down a hot cue by up to 12 semitones. That's a full octave, and that gives you so much more performance, flexibility, and melodic combinations that would otherwise be impossible with a normal DJ controller that has either 4 or 8 pads per deck. Finally, the DDJ-XP1 unlocks pad mode in Rekordbox DJ 5.0. That means that you can assign any pad function to any of the pads in here, or even the function buttons here at the top. So the way I've got it set up for my routine, which you're going to be able to view later on, is that the top half of the first deck has my hot cues, and I've got it set to different semitones using the keyboard mode. And over here at the bottom, I've got my sampler row for samples that I want to trigger during my performance. And over here at the bottom, I've got pad effects. So I've got a break effect here, I've got an echo, and so on. So you can specify any pad command that you want, assign it to a pad, and you can even rearrange the pad modes over here at the top. If you want, say, the hot cues to be right beside the keyboard mode, for example, because the way it's set up by default is that you have to press the shift button as well as the hot cue button in order to access keyboard mode. So you can rearrange all that stuff however which way you want to suit your style of performance, as well as to make the pad layout more intuitive for your routine. All right, so who's the DDJ-XP1 for? Well, if you were a scratch DJ or a battle DJ, and let's say you spin with a pair of turntables, you've got a mixer in the middle as well as your laptop running Rekordbox DVS, well, you're going to find most use out of the DDJ-XP1 because you can take full advantage of all of the pads here, as well as the browse controls, the looping functions, as well as the slide effects. Now, if you are a controller DJ, let's say you've got a mid-size controller, maybe you've got like a DDJ-RR, an RX, or even a big controller like an RZ, well, integrating the DDJ-XP1 in your setup would be advisable only if you want to perform cue juggle routines and pitch play performances, because then you'd be able to use all 16 pads. Otherwise, your controller may already handle some of those features and some of those capabilities, and you're gonna find that the DDJ-XP1 is actually a little bit redundant. So in that sense, it really depends on what style of DJing you'd like to do, or if you would like to add more controllerism techniques in your performances. All right, so now that I've given you a features rundown of this controller, as well as my thoughts on it, here's a little routine that I put together that includes a breakdown of what I'm doing during the performance.
Nakikita ko sa iyong mga mata.
Alright, so that's it for this talk-through video of the DDJ-XP1. I've got a full review of it over at the Digital DJ Tips website. The link is in the description box below. Hit the thumbs up icon if you like this video, and hit the subscribe button if you are not a subscriber yet. My name is Joey. Thank you so much for watching. I'm gonna see you next time.